Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Movie Chatter. Tonight we are going to be discussing one of the recent Netflix releases that I think is really awesome, and I'm sure all of us think is really awesome, but we're going to get back to that in just a minute.
Yay!
Army of Thieves. The prequel to Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead film. We're going to get to that in just a minute. We're going to talk about the movie, give our initial thoughts, go over the cast, the directing, the writing, and then there's a little special analysis at the end that we're going to go over. But that's a surprise. We're going to save that for just a few minutes. But first, let's check in and see how everybody's doing. I'm Eric, by the way, if this is your first time to the show. Lou, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's a couple days before Thanksgiving, and looking forward to some time off from work, and then I've got to go to a meeting down in Florida. So yeah,
I'm down in Florida. Would it happen to be a meeting on Batu?
Well, it is after the meeting that I have to
after the boring meeting.
But yeah.
Yeah, meetings are like that. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm a little bit jealous. You're going to have to give us some live reporting while you're there. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Robin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I know you've been looking forward to this episode for a while, and we had to put it off a few times. But why, Robin? Why are you looking forward to this episode?
Because well, I love this. I love this movie, and I know other people love this movie. And then there's a person who doesn't love this movie. So
that's not a thing.
It is. There's one single person on the entire planet.
That's like saying there's a glass of water over there, but it's dry. It's not very wet. That's just not a thing.
Just saying. Hi, Lou.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
So happy to be broadcasting with you.
All right. Let's give our initial thoughts on Army of Thieves then. Robin, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
So it's super. It's like amazingly super. I've actually watched it twice. I will watch it again. Several more times. I thought it was witty and over the top in a good kind of way. I thought I was just very drawn to it. Great use of lighting and texture, and the acting was acting, but aside from that, it was just a really fun time.
I would agree with that. I will say that I wasn't expecting much out of this film. I was I liked the quirkiness of the character in Army of the Dead. Wasn't quite sure how it was going to work out here or how the character was going to carry his own film, and I was pleasantly surprised. There are a lot of really, really good things, I think, about this film. In fact, this time around, I went back to something I haven't done in a long time. Probably 6 or 7 or 8 months of reviews. And that is when I watched it the second time, I took notes while I was watching it. And I realized there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot of kind of depth to it. And I was surprised to find that it was as good as it really is. Hey, Lou. Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Hi, Lou.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm doing great.
So what do you think of the film?
Looking forward to it. I didn't expect much out of this movie. And I was, correct, because I didn't get much out of the movie. I find it hard to believe that somebody who is into movies as much as she is and expects a lot out of movies didn't really care for the acting, but it was still good. It was still awesome.
You're talking about Robin?
The acting was
Wait, I'm offended. I'm offended. Hold on. So you're saying you expected more out of Robin? It would totally make sense that Eric would love a crappy movie, but Robin, we're disappointed with Robin.
Another one for you too, because I'm disappointed in you for a different reason. I'm disappointed in you because you despise prequels.
Oh, I do.
And yet you love this movie. I'm like, really?
It was such a well done prequel.
I
will let you talk, Lou. I will let you talk.
Okay, I'll back up a second. My main reason for disliking the movie is I just dislike the main character.
Okay, that's fair. And if you don't like
the actor's a fine actor. I mean, he did the role well. I just didn't care for the actor. I didn't care for the acting. Okay. I mean, it was just I didn't like the character. So it's hard to like a movie when you don't like the main character. And
especially for this type of movie that really revolves around a certain character. If you don't like that character, the movie will not work.
Right. When I first heard we were doing this, and you said, "Oh yeah, it's a prequel from the Army of Thieves movie or the Army of Dead movie, and it's focused on this character," I'm like, the one character I despise from the first movie, we got to have a whole movie about it. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh God, it's gonna be torture. So I mean, otherwise, I mean, I had other problems with the movie in general, but I mean, I disliked it mainly for that reason. I just didn't connect with the main character. So it's hard to like a movie when you just don't like the main character.
That is very true.
Or I shouldn't say, because you can like a movie that has a despisable main character if he's meant to be despised. If it's somebody that you're supposed to hate, okay, I can see that. I didn't care for the mannerisms. I didn't care for the characterization. So to me, it was just...
You can enjoy watching a despicable character. And it can be interesting to watch a bad character. But if you don't find it interesting to watch a certain character, then you're not going to get anywhere with it.
I guess it's annoying character to me versus, despised.
Wait until season 2 of Cowboy Bebop then. Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. Now, hang on. I got to tell you.
We're still in the nutshell overview, by the way. Just to keep that in mind.
But it could only have worked as a prequel after the Army of the Dead. That is the only way this movie could have worked.
Because that gave it a little bit of
context.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, otherwise, I mean, as a heist movie, it wasn't that great for me. Because the heist movie didn't really. I mean, what were they heisting? I mean, it was all of a sudden it was this big thing about doing the safes, and it was like, why is it
let's
such a big
talk
deal?
about the actual, what the movie is, the summary and all of that. And we're going to come back to that because, we do need to discuss the plot a little bit, the writing. And then I want to come back to the point that you made, Robin, too. So don't let me forget about the fact that this could only really be done after the Army of the Dead was released. So we talked about the fact this is a prequel set before Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead was a kind of zombie movie. So there's a bunch of zombies that are quarantined around Las Vegas. And there's a casino there with an unbreakable safe. This vault is completely unbreakable. It's legendary. And there is a team that's been hired to go in and get the contents of the safe. And played by Tanaka. Well, not played by, but the character is Tanaka something. And
I'll look it up.
I think he owns the safe, actually. So he hires his team to go in and get the contents out because soon the U.S. is going to drop nukes into Vegas to get rid of the zombie problem, because why wouldn't you? So it's kind of a heist/zombie movie, the first one. And the character they bring in to actually crack the safe is this German character named Dieter, and Ludwig Dieter. There's no reason he should be able to survive a zombie apocalypse. Like, somebody drops something on the ground, he screams at the top of his lungs. Like he's a complete misfit. But he's a great safecracker. So what they did was they did a prequel movie set immediately before, well, I say immediately, like a year or so before Army of the Dead, and it's focusing on the safecracker character. So Army of the Dead, they had this impossibly difficult safe. Well, in the prequel, we find out that it's one of 4. And these 4 safes were designed, but I took some notes here. So this locksmith years and years and years ago named Hans Wagner, and he created this ring cycle, these 4 safes that were based around Richard Wagner's, excuse me, I don't do well with German, his operas. So there's the Rheingold, the Valkyrie, the Siegfried, and the Götterdämmerung. So Army of the Dead, they're cracking into the Götterdämmerung. In this movie, Army of Thieves, he is brought in to crack the other 3. So he's a nobody, right? He has no life. He works a boring customer service, kind of like a DMV type of job. but he's a good safecracker. So somebody invites him based on a YouTube video that he did with like one viewer, kind of like our podcast network. Hi, Mom.
Hey.
And so they invite him to the safecracking competition. So he goes in, he wins it easily. And then they bring him in to crack, to join a team to crack these vaults. So that's kind of the movie, is following this team throughout this heist. So the characters, so first, it's directed by the same guy who plays Ludwig Dieter. I'm going to butcher the name. Matthias Schweighofer?
That's what you said.
I think.
Sure.
Written by Shay Hatton and based on Zack Snyder's writing from the first movie. The characters, so you've got Sebastian. Sebastian Schneck-Warnert.
Yeah, the guy with the dumb last name.
Schneck-Warnert. Yeah. Nobody in the movie can pronounce the last name either. So he's the main character. You've got Gwendolyn Starr, played by Natalie Emmanuel. Best known, I think, probably from Game of Thrones. She plays Daenerys' assistant. Really great actress. Mm-hmm. Karina Dominguez is played by Ruby O'Fee, who I think she's playing someone from Central America, I think. She's actually a German actress. What else? We've got the driver, Rolf. We've got Brad Cage, the action hero, who actually his name is Alexis Brashini. I think he's Russian. And then we've got a couple of Interpol characters. But those 5 people make up the main team. So, spoiler warning, we're going to get into spoilers. We can't not get into spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, I don't think this is a type of movie where it's going to matter too much. But we're not going to be offended if you pause this video or this audio podcast, go watch the movie and come back. It's really good. You should watch it. Right, Lou? Right. So, what did you think? So the acting, you said, the acting is acting. I thought the acting was pretty good. I thought the main character, I thought he had the right combination of quirkiness, and yet it wasn't over the top quirky. Like everybody else was playing the straight person, humor wise, whereas he was kind of the goofy slapstickier character, but not like something like Ace Ventura, where you've got Jim Carrey, flapping all over the place. Right. I mean, this is a character he fit. This was a realistic, real world type character. I don't think it was over the top. I think he had a lot of subtle moments where, his body language communicated things without having to use words. And I thought the acting was good. I thought Gwendolyn character, I thought she was really good. She had the right mix of being in a position of leadership while also having some humanity to her. I really liked Karina. I thought she was a fun character. I liked the characters and I liked the acting. Robin, you kind of seemed to say the acting was, it was there. It was acting.
Well, I mean, I think Ralph was woefully underutilized, underplayed. Brad Cage just annoyed me to no end.
Supposed to.
I guess he was supposed to. He was supposed to, but I didn't find the acting incredibly compelling. In fact, I was distracted by the fact that he kind of looked like Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman.
So, he's
okay.
Yeah. Well, no, while Hugh Jackman playing, right? Because he had that chiseled face
and the stubbly beard and then and so kind of the shaped hair. Okay, I guess I can see that.
But
a little bit.
Nothing actually stood out to me as a fantastic performance. I think as an ensemble, there were weak ones and strong ones. I also think Karina could have been utilized way more. I think it really kind of focused a little too much on Sebastian, but I mean,
Right.
it was
It's
supposed
his
to,
movie.
right? This was his story and how he got to Las Vegas in order to pick up in the Army of the Dead. I have to tell you though, 71% Rotten Tomatoes.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Just a spoiler warning, Lou is not in that 71%.
Yeah, no.
Just saying.
Well, the audience score too was 71% with over 500 ratings.
Lou was not one.
There's been a rise on drug use in America. So I'm just saying.
But it's legal now, Lou.
I mean, marijuana is legal in a lot of places, so people are really not paying attention to the movie. So no, yeah. Okay. So aside from the acting, what do you guys think of the writing?
I will say this, and here's where I kind of felt like it was weak the first time around. One area in which I felt it was weak, and then I watched it the second time, and I thought, okay, this isn't so much a weakness. It's not focusing on something it doesn't need to focus on. So I think it was a benefit. There was, with heist movies, a lot of times what makes it interesting is the complexity of the heist, where you map everything out and then you get through and they get stuck and then you realize what you thought was going on wasn't actually what was going on. And you look at things like Ocean's 11, or you look at Ronin, or you look at we've covered various different, the Italian Job, the modern one, not that old stuff. We've covered heist movies and stuff. We've talked about it. And this really had heists. It had 3, which is better than just having 1. But because it had 3, I think, and because it was focused on other things, it didn't really do a lot about the mechanics of the heist and the details and the little gotcha moments and stuff like that. And I think that's what we expect out of heist movies. But I think in this movie it worked out okay, because really it was more about the characters and and I thought the writing for the characters was predictable and shallow. I mean, having him and Gwendolyn, it's like that didn't work for me because it was so out of place and so not. Those characters didn't really fit together. You can't nod your head, Robin, because if there's any characters who have any romantic interest in a movie, you immediately are like, nope. They've known each other since childhood. They've been flirting for 30 years, and now they're going on a date. Nope, unacceptable. It doesn't fit.
That's right.
I thought the most interesting writing was probably for Rolf. I thought that was, that character was written
like 30 seconds of the film.
Everybody else. I know. That's why there wasn't much there for me. But I mean, otherwise it was like even the heist type stuff. The most interesting part of that was probably that first one where they were talking their way through it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's done. I was like, oh, okay, that was a unique way to handle that. It was like, it was different. So I was like, okay, that got my attention a little bit. But then I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, so we're cracking safes. And we're doing all of these major, hard to crack safes, uncrackable safes by ear. I'm like, okay.
No, it wasn't just by ear.
That's how he cracked the safes. He wasn't doing anything else but listening. That's all he did.
It was by feel a little
he's
bit
doing it
too.
While he's playing music, which I'm like, okay, that kind of ruins it. But then we had the hardest safe to crack, cracking in the back of a moving vehicle, where
that was a little.
I'm like, okay,
but where do you get a heist movie where they're cracking the safe while it's in transit? That was good.
That was fun.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have worked.
No, it wouldn't have worked.
Like he's listening. I'm like, all the road noise. How can you hear what you're doing? There's no way you would crack. And not just once, but 6. He had 6 safes to crack in that same war. 6, what do you call those dials, or
there were 7, weren't there?
Combination lock things. Yeah. Maybe it was 7. I got so bored with the first 5, I was like, "Oh my god!" So, but
that's the thing. It's not about the science of it. It's supposed to be about him and kind of the connection to the over. Like he's in commune with.
But the minute you introduce that kind of thing, you're making it about the technology.
I don't feel like they ever tried to. I think, in fact, they intentionally shied away from it. They made it about him just having the spiritual, not like literally spiritual, but this kind of an emotional connection to the safe and kind of trying to click with what the creator was thinking and his approach. And
But I think that's where it failed, though, because if you're trying to make this about these uncrackable safes, which it was about these uncrackable safes, and he was going to be the first guy to do this, cycle of all these safes, which is amazing. Okay, sure. But I'm like, if it's about how hard it was to do and we had to get him in the right place, the right time to do all this, and then to have the actual doing of it, just so much of a letdown, I guess, or overhyped type thing. I was like, why do we even do that? It's like it didn't make sense to me in that respect.
I can understand that, but to me it goes back to when I watched it the second time. I felt more like it was okay because it was about other things and it wasn't supposed to be about that.
If you're self-harming, we can get you help. You're watching it a second time. You're self-harming. We can just have to reach out.
Rewatching this film is not self-harming.
That's what Lou said to me today.
It was a joy, Lou. In fact, I also rewatched Army of the Dead, fast forwarded through some parts, but to kind of like reflect back on his involvement in that movie.
I want to ask you about that, though, because this is a bifurcated type of movie, right? So they're cracking open these safes that have a lot of money in them, right? The idea is that they had a lot of money in them, obviously put there by whoever ended up being the owner. But the deal with the last safe was supposed to have the remains of Hans Wagner.
That safe was dropped into the ocean.
Okay, but this is the same thing.
No, it's not.
So it was retrieved. But yes, it was. That's why because there are 4 safes. He cracked 3 of them, and then in the Army of the Dead, he cracks the last safe, and the last safe is supposed to have the remains.
I will go back and rewatch it, but my understanding from rewatching the prologue was that it was a 5th unrelated safe that he locked himself into.
That's what I got.
It was not part of the ring cycle. I understand, because at first I kind of thought the same thing. On the second viewing, I felt like it was a 5th unrelated safe.
Okay. I might have to watch it a third time.
Because that safe was not found. Nobody knew where that safe was, because the other one was owned by what's his name there in Vegas?
Tanaka. Yeah, those were commissioned.
Yeah.
And then this one was separate, and then his staff, when they couldn't get through to him, they took it and dumped it in the ocean. Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Listen, I see what you're saying, Lou, about, again, the whole safe cracking thing. I guess, to me, when I felt like I approached the movie from the perspective of character growth and character development for Sebastian, and kind of more the grander scope of what's going to become the Snyderverse here on Netflix, along with something else we're going to get to in a minute, it didn't bother me as much, because I kind of felt like the story isn't about the safe cracking. The story is about the journey this character goes through. So if you look at his journey and you disregard the logistics, then it works. If you get focused on the logistics, and to be fair, heist movies have trained us to look at the logistics. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that in heist movies. In fact, the better heist planning you have like that, the more interested I am in the heist movie. This was an outlier for me in that regard, because I was really disappointed by the lack of any details about the heist or the safe cracking or anything like that. I mean, literally, he puts his ear up and he's spinning a couple knobs and stuff and he's done. Okay. So I had to find other interesting things in the movie, but I feel like I found those other interesting things. But again, I liked the character and you didn't.
Right. And like I said, that taints everything about it. But I also thought there was a lot of the writing to me that was just not up to what I would have thought this would have been. But
all right. I mean, I get that. To me, I thought that Sebastian was a very relatable protagonist. He didn't, what's the phrase where you got the wish fulfillment in the characters and stuff, and they start out as a nobody and they come in and they're like the savior of the universe. The whole Mary Sue thing or whatever it is. Like, he didn't have that going on. Like, in the ways in which he was flawed, he stayed flawed throughout the entire movie, other than his own perspective on things. He was relatable. He was a vulnerable character. He was lonely. He was in a dead-end job. He had a dead-end life. He was brought into something for which he was in way over his head, and he managed to succeed anyway. And then he managed to find little tiny bits of confidence here and there throughout those successes, and he managed to succeed despite himself. And I feel like it was that theme of man versus self, and him kind of overcoming that. And I thought that was an interesting story, an interesting development. I liked it for that reason. I also think he did a decent job directing. Robin, what are your thoughts on that? You're more the person who's well in tune with the role of the director and the stuff we look at. What's your take?
Right. So, I mean, I think he did the best with what he had to do. Don't forget, he picked up ostensibly where Zack Snyder left off, sort of, but before that, there were really very limited options for him. He could not direct something outside of that box because everything had to fit like a puzzle piece, or like
one of the reasons I don't like prequels,
right? Because, but this I felt fit really well. And I think the fact that it was a prequel automatically gave it depth, and then gives the Army of the Dead a little bit more depth for me. Actually, I wanted to go back and watch it, but I ran out of time, because whereas his character in Army of the Dead was just freakishly annoying to me, now I think I would have had a different opinion of him, knowing that he went through what he went through in this movie in order to be in the right place in Vegas. So I think he did the best with what he had. Is he going to be a great director? I don't think so. I mean, maybe if Kenneth Branagh takes him under his wing. But but other than that, so I, all I can really say is he directed this movie. And that's, I guess that's
I'm going to give him a little more credit than that.
Oh.
I definitely don't have your credentials when it comes to rating directors. But I feel like there were a lot of shots. Like, if you look at the way he handled some of the dream / premonition scenes, and the zombies in the hallway and stuff like that, I think, the way he handled the different cuts and framing different things and setting the right amount of dramatic tension without resorting to cheap gimmicks and without resorting to dialogue and stuff. I think that was really good. There were some scenes where, like, when they lean in for the kiss and they get interrupted, you always get this particular type of cut that you get the music swell, and then it cuts away, and then you immediately cut to one person and you cut to the other person's face, and the way the audio is handled and everything is a certain way. And in this one, there was none of that. The camera angle didn't change. They got interrupted over the radio. So there wasn't that forced jolting of the audience's perspective. Instead, it felt a lot more natural. The punch he throws later in the movie near the end, that was perfect. That felt natural. There was no sound effect, which is exactly what you would have in real life. If you punched somebody in the face, you might get like a light slapping sound in the background, and that's it. Just little moments. I think that he handled them in ways I wasn't expecting, and I think those fit the storytelling really well. And I definitely don't see anything I felt like he did wrong with the directing. I was pretty happy with it. Is he going to be like the next Spielberg? No, he's not. But I mean, how many things has he directed before this? I haven't looked. Did you? I was going to say, this has got to be one of his first things, and certainly his first big thing. I mean, he's coming off the heels of the guy that did Justice League and a bunch of other like big movies. And, you know, it's kind of his baby, and he hands it off this guy and says, here, not only are you the lead actor, you're going to direct too, which is stressful. I was impressed. I think he pulled it off where others wouldn't. And it's a good start. I've got confidence in him. I would be happy to see other things he does in the future. I think he's on. So let me put it this way. I think he's on a good path. My opinion. I thought, I kind of thought the writing was good too. I thought the comedy was good. So
that's fine. That's
he shows up for the meeting. And,
so
go ahead, Lou.
He's also done some directing in acting in You Are Wanted, which was another German series. I think it was on Amazon Prime. I saw part of it. I talked about it on Random Chatter a while ago. I think I saw a couple episodes of it. He plays the main character in this series where his identity's stolen and some other stuff. It's a pretty intriguing there. And he directed some of the episodes. I don't think I saw any of the episodes he directed, but you know, I mean, and he played a totally different character there, and I enjoyed his character in that. I mean, I don't think the series was great, but I enjoyed his acting in that. So it's not him; it's the character he portrayed in these two movies, Army of the Dead and Army of Thieves. Was the directing good? Yeah, it was okay. I mean, nothing to write home about, but again, I didn't like the movie to begin with, so it's hard for me to say, yeah, it was a really sucky movie, but you know, it was good directing.
It's hard to find like one really awesome thing about a movie that you otherwise really can't stand, because even that one awesome thing is going to be overpowered by the fact that you really wanted to be doing anything else other than watching that movie. So I get that. And back to your point, Robin, when I was rewatching Army of the Dead, so the first time around I was annoyed by the characters. Second time I watched Army of the Dead like months ago when we were covering it for this show, I thought, okay, he actually works. He's not too much. He's not extra. He's right at that right amount. He's okay. I like it. Didn't think he could pull off a movie. Now going back and rewatching Army of the Dead, I feel like there wasn't enough of him in Army of the Dead. I feel like they barely used him. So it was weird.
Well, and that's the brilliance of this movie right now. Now it all makes the Army of the Dead makes a little bit more sense to me. You know, there's a lot of symbolism in he at the end of Army of the Dead locking himself in the safe. So it like I said, it made Army of the Dead a deeper movie for me.
This is an important point because we're going to get to this in a little bit. He didn't lock himself in the safe. So spoiler for the end of Army of the Dead. He locked someone else in the safe. Closes the door as Alpha, the main zombie's hand, pulls him away from the door. And Zack Snyder said, listen, it's a horror movie, so if you don't see him die, he could come back. And then he's already kind of been hinting at how he's going to use Dieter in Planet of the Dead, which is going to be the next movie. But he didn't actually lock himself in the safe.
I'm out.
I thought he did.
But the theory is that the little premonition he had was where he got the idea to lock the other person in the safe. But before we move on to this other big topic I want to get to, the secret topic, the comedy. He shows up at the house. There's the secret knock. No, there's no secret knock. Oh, I thought there was to be a secret. No, you just
that was cute.
Those moments in this movie were awesome. The credit union. Oh, what's a credit union? It's a bank for children.
It's a kid bank.
It's a literal bank for children.
Hysterical.
And just moments like that, and you know, Karina walks into the bank. Yes, do you speak English? I need help. I lost all my credit cards. And my husband. I'm thinking, okay, not smooth, but. And then he walks into the apartment later on, and Gwendolyn and Karina are sitting there. And they're like, should we say something? Because, you know, you walk in and it's that classic Sam Jackson, Nick Fury thing. You walk in, Peter Parker walks into his dorm room and he turns around 5 seconds later and there's Nick Fury sitting in the chair, right? Well, no. So there's the two people sitting at his dining room table, plain view, and he walks in and just doesn't notice them. They're like, should we say something? No, it's been too long now to be weird. I feel like should we leave and then just knock? No, I think we should like say surprise. No, that's a terrible idea. I felt like the humor, it was well placed. It wasn't over the top. It was kind of understated in a lot of places as well. And I thought it worked. I liked it. I think it set a good tone. But we're going to move on to talking about.
We can't all like everything. So
what's that? What'd you say?
Yeah.
We can't all like all the same stuff. So
but, Lou, you got to admit the humor worked. You guys are more right? The humor was okay.
I'm happy you guys liked it.
A couple times. Okay, that's better than I expected.
Yep.
So I expect you to like the movie a little bit more than you did, Lou. And I thought, how can we make this episode better for Lou? Because I know Robin loved it, and Lou's like
by not covering the movie.
I'm so worried about
this
Lou,
now. I know you and I are both fans of the time travel subgenre.
Yes.
See, our audio podcast listeners cannot see the painful look on Robin's face as she's tilting her head back and still rolling her eyes, like she's looking backwards now. And shaking her head.
That was how I felt watching Army of Thieves.
But you do like the time travel / time loop subgenre, right? Did you know?
Yes.
Did you know, Lou, that this movie that Robin thinks is quote great has time travel / time loop implications in it?
Oh, good Lord! How so?
Doesn't
it does? No, see, Lou, this is where you and I get to group up on her. See, this
straight
is
line. Time went one direction.
Trying to help you
Time
here.
went in one direction. Beginning of the movie, end of the movie.
No. Okay, you guys. So this is going to spoil Army of the Dead for people who haven't seen it. You remember the scene, and we talked about this in the episode of Movie Chatter where Dieter and what's the other guy's name? Vanderoe, the soldier guy. They were outside of the vault, and I think Goose was still there too. And they find these bodies outside of the vault. Mm-hmm. And the bodies are wearing the same exact clothing, same exact accessories and stuff as their team. You had the big guy with the red handkerchief, the bandana around his throat, like Dave Bautista's character. Mm-hmm. You had a female with a necklace with a little key on it, like Maria's character had, etc. And then I keep forgetting the guy's name. Vanderhoof goes off on this little thing. I've got the quote here. He says, "Is it another team or is it us, Dieter? Think about it. Us. I mean, look at them. It's us. It could be us in another timeline and we're caught in some infinite loop of fighting and dying, fighting and dying, fighting and dying. And Tanaka, the puppet master, devil, God, and we, you, me, and Goose, and the rest of the team, simply pawns in some perverse play where we're destined to repeat our failures. And then finally, in some mind-bending, ironic reveal, it all begins again." And then they walk away and they don't explain any of it, right? Yes. Remember, we were talking about the fact, I found that really frustrating because I'm like, oh, they're going to do something cool with this. And they just leave it. Okay.
I do remember that, yes.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're
1
hour,
53 minutes, 24 seconds? 26 seconds. 1 hour, 53 minutes, 26 seconds on the casino floor as they're walking through. One of the tables in the background is sitting a team. Looks just like them.
Yep.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Oh.
The key around the dead person's neck.
Yep.
It looks like maybe like a jewelry box key or something, and it's got 3 little holes on it where it attaches to the necklace. But the alive version of Maria has 4. Goose is carrying an AK-47, a very distinct looking firearm. They walk into the vault. The whole team walks into the vault after it gets open. Along the wall, up against the wall by the door, there are 3 other AK-47s. Over and over again, there are indications that this is the 4th team to go through here. We find another set of blueprints earlier in the movie when they're in the tunnels. Mm-hmm. Each iteration of the team keeps getting further and further and further. And there are other things that when they first meet Sebastian / Dieter in Army of the Dead, and he's got that store called Gwendolyn's, go figure. And they're recruiting him. He's talking about the Götterdämmerung is, quote, a doorway to another realm. Right? Okay. Bear with me a second. In this movie, Army of Thieves, he's talking about, I believe the locks are to be solved in the order of the story, and then the cycle begins anew. Okay. Dieter tells Vanderhoe before cracking the Götterdämmerung, if I can open it, it'll be either destruction or renewal, death or rebirth. Dieter in Army of the Dead shoots some zombies. Oh, I shot her 3 times. And Goose says, actually, it was 4. As if maybe he was remembering it wrong from his past thing, right? The nuke was supposed to be dropped on the 4th, July 4th. There are a bunch of little Easter eggs throughout the movie about the number 4. Liberace counts to 4 before the zombies attack. The convoy refers to themselves as the 4 horsemen, etc. And then, so you've got the Dieter messing up, I shot her 3 times. Oh no, it was 4. And kind of the premonition of the stuff in Army of Thieves. And now we're wondering, is he kind of like looping out of time? Because he's the one doing the locks, right? Which is causing the cycle to reset. And is he kind of having these moments of seeing the different things? It was even his point of view in Army of the Dead when they were doing kind of the walkthrough and the little montage of how they were going to do the heist. And Goose's friend was in that, and then he walks off as if maybe that was a different iteration of things. The hallway where Dieter dies in Army of Thieves in that premonition he has, that's actually not the Götterdämmerung door at the end. In fact, in Army of the Dead, where they do the little, here's the planning montage, that door is different from the actual door at the end of the movie. You've got the scene in this one where they're in the van. He has the dream. He wakes up from the dream, and Karina's driving. And she says, maybe they're prophecies, not dreams. Maybe you saw your own death, or maybe simply your psyche's manifestation of your own self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. You should be that tough man, be able to fight them. And yet again and again, they just destroy you. So there's this theme of like it's cycling through. So then back to your point earlier, Lou, when they're doing the planning montage for this first vault heist, and he says, it can't be that easy. I'm like, Sebastian, it's already done. Like, maybe that's not just kind of this silly little humorous moment, because, I mean, really, it doesn't make sense. Maybe it has to do with him being kind of like, I don't want to say stuck out of time, but part of this looping thing. And then, so at the end of Army of the Dead, we know the person who survives. And I'm going to spoil the ending here. He gets on a plane. He's going to, is it Mexico or New Mexico? And he pulls up his shoulder. He's been bitten on the arm by Alpha. It doesn't actually happen.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
At the end of the movie, he's about to be bitten on the arm by Alpha, and Dieter comes up, hits Alpha on the side of the head with a big old wrench, throws this individual into the safe, closes the door, and Dieter gets taken off by Alpha. The guy never gets bit. But again, goes into, quote, the portal of the safe. And then how does he get out? We don't know that either. But so is that ending some kind of different iteration of things too? And Zack Snyder's thrown out these little tidbits here and there, these teases on Twitter and things like that, and some hints that there's going to be more coming in Planet of the Dead. So...
No, now see, I don't like the movie.
Did I help you at all? Is that any vindication? I tried, Lou. I did my best.
Not really. Yeah, no,
okay.
You did well. You did well, but it doesn't.
Well, no, I'm not saying to save the movie. I'm thinking it might save the recording. It might save the episode to know that Robin is now also suffering and not just you.
So now that you've ruined that movie for me,
I feel powerful now. Like if that's all it takes to ruin a quote great movie for somebody, hey.
The only thing you had to do was, like point out that I missed them, getting married and having a baby in one of the loops, because that would just annoy the.
You didn't see that
to no end. So, did I miss it? Did I miss it? I have been really busy lately, but.
So, possible kind of, I don't know, timey-wimey sort of stuff going on here, to quote Doctor Who. Don't know what's going on, but there's stuff.
Sure. No, I get that. I like that.
Okay. See. And how do you feel about, and I mean this question like for real, how do you feel about that? I know I kind of like the idea of them because I'm not into zombie movies, right? So I like the genre bending, right? I like the fact they did a heist movie in a zombie setting. And then for this one, they did a different type of heist movie as a prequel going into a zombie setting that might actually tie into some like weird time twisty things. I kind of like them throwing in a little bit of a science fiction element. If I have to sit through a zombie movie, at least give me something different, right? I'm okay with this. Lou, what do you think?
My goodness.
Any thoughts on?
Yeah, no, I like that, but like I said, the heist part of it didn't work for me because I didn't think it was as good of a heist as it could have been. I liked the thought that they had that other stuff going on in the first one. I did pick up on that whole time travel-esque.
But if you zoom out and look at the possibility of what they're doing with the Snyderverse, are you a fan of that approach?
Yeah, it's just like, I have the same problem you do. I have a problem with the whole zombie thing because I'm not a huge fan of zombie stuff, and I do watch a fair amount of it.
It's weird how we don't like zombie stuff, and yet
sad,
and yet we still watch it.
Yeah, but to me, I'm not sure I want to see a whole Snyderverse of zombie stuff. I'm like, okay, Yeah,
okay.
I don't like zombie stuff at all. The only reason I watch is because you guys make me.
Says the person who was most emphatic about this movie.
It was a zombie movie.
It definitely was not.
There was zombie thing happening that they mention a couple times, and they show on TV in order to.
It's almost like Die Hard not being a Christmas movie. Like Christmas is happening at the time, but it's not actually a Christmas. It's not about Christmas.
I was watching Die Hard last night and Die Hard 2 right before I came up here to record. And in, Die Hard last night, he was humming Christmas carols.
I kind of feel like Die Hard 2 is even more Christmassy than Die Hard 1 was.
Just saying. It's the reason
Die Hard
for the
is
season,
not the reason for the season. Oh my gosh. You can send your hate mail to Robin
really
at randomchatter.com. Oh. Wow.
What?
That's okay.
Sorry.
All right. So let's bring it full circle here.
Yeah.
And just close the cycle. No pun intended. A little bit of pun intended. I would recommend this movie. It's not a zombie movie. It was fun. It's not the greatest movie out there, but it was better than I expected it to be. And I had a lot of fun with it. I've watched it twice now, happily. I will end up at some point putting it on again once some time has passed. I would recommend it. Robin?
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's to me it was just simply fun to watch. Bubblegum. Yeah. Bubblegum for the brain.
Lou?
No. No. I mean, I'm concerned for your well-being that you guys have watched it twice now. Like I said, the self-harming thing, I take that seriously. We should, it's that time of year. People get depressed this time of year.
And they watch.
I don't want to see you guys, self-harm anymore.
I know something that will make you enjoy this movie better, Lou. And that is when in early December, we're going to do a remote group viewing of Kung Pao Enter the Fist. And that will make this movie look so much better, Lou. You will say, you know what? I thought this movie kind of stunk. And in hindsight, it's really not that bad. I got your back, Lou. I know how to fix this movie for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, anytime,
Thanks, buddy.
man.
Thanks, buddy. Yep. I'll make sure I call you from Batu. Do FaceTime with you so we can talk about that.
I bet. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Movie Chatter. What are we doing next week? We're doing Red Notice, right?
Yeah. What are we doing?
Are we doing Red Notice?
Next week I might not be available. I think I will be in Florida at that point.
Well, we can either skip it, or we can have Tim on to do Red Notice, or we can do a different movie.
No.
Well, we'll tell you what.
Yeah, I'd like to do Red Notice with you guys.
So we will either pick a movie you're not interested in seeing, Lou.
Fill in the blank.
Or we'll wait.
No.
I feel bad about waiting because I know we've missed a lot of weeks, but that's okay. We'll stick around for Lou.
We like Lou.
If he's nice to us. You know, if he brings us back like a dead porg or something from Galaxy's Edge.
What is wrong with you tonight? Time loopy.
Not just a corpse. I mean to eat. I mean like porg meat, like you can
movie.
Cook it. I'm not talking about some gross corpse thing. I mean like, pork burgers.
Tastes like chicken.
Throw something. Throw something at
You get
Eric's
grilled
face
pork, now you can have grilled porg.
Everybody go. Ready? There's people all over the world throwing things at your face right now.
Pork paninis.
Okay.
Anyway.
Red Notice next. We're going to take next week off. We will be back the week after that, which I think is first Tuesday of December. 7th or 8th or something. I don't know. I'll go look at a calendar later. But either way, we will be back in 2 weeks. Thank you for hanging out with us. Go watch Red Notice if you haven't already. And we will see you again soon.